Good morning.
Good morning. It's Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers or everyone who ever had a father.
If you didn't have a father, then maybe we can talk later.
So today, June 18th, 2023, our topic today, it is the Father's good pleasure. And of course, that refers to Mark. No, I'm sorry, it's Luke. Luke 12, I think 12:23. Where it is said, it is the Father's good pleasure to give to you the kingdom. And that, of course, refers to the kingdom of heaven, which we interpret as the spiritual realm, which is eternal. And we have that gift that we are eternally alive in spirit. And we also get the gift of a temporary life on earth, where we have the appearance of good and evil that we get to play with. So I'm going to begin with an affirmative prayer, and this is written by Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Barker, and it's a book called 365 Days of Richer Living. So these are affirmative prayers written by one or the other of them, or perhaps both. It doesn't say. So this prayer says, "Within me now is the light of life, and I let it reveal its perfect nature in all that I do. I'm willing to step aside from all petty thinking and place God first and foremost in my experience today. I know that more good is seeking to express through me than I can ever know. All that the Father mind has is within me, offering itself to me. Peace is in my environment. Prosperity is in my finances, and health rules my body as I let God dominate my consciousness. It is a great relief to know that I need not work, but merely know truth and let it happen to me." And so it is.
Beautiful.
That is beautiful, isn't it? And so today we want to explore this idea of it is the Father's good pleasure to give to you the kingdom. And in the New Testament, when Jesus is referring to the kingdom of God, it's always that eternal space where all of us continue to live after this time on earth, and is the realm of God and spirit, which we call spirit. We call God Father because it's very convenient. Most of us grow up thinking of our Father as the provider of all of our needs. And nowadays it's often the mother that does that all by herself or as well. But traditionally we've thought of Father as the provider. And so that's why we often think of our God as male. But in this teaching, we like to move away from that and think of, often it's called Father, Mother, God, because we really think of God as an intelligence, a universal intelligence, and a universal love that's everywhere present all the time, here on earth, in this realm, and in the realm of heaven. So our job is to learn to use what God has given us for our benefit. And that's what the science of mind is all about.
So I wanted to go on a little bit further about that. And an idea that came to mind was that we are 60% water, if you didn't know that. So despite all of the things that we think of ourselves as, we're also water. And imagine now that you're thrown into the ocean. And the ocean is also, somebody needs to be muted, right? Thank you. Imagine that you're thrown into the ocean and you're looking for God. But imagine that God is the ocean. You can't see God because if you're in the middle of the ocean, you can't see the ocean, you're in the middle of it. Imagine that you're surrounded by it because you are. Imagine that when you go to swim, the ocean moves out of the way for you so that you can move. And what is outside of you is also inside of you. That is, if 60% of you is water, you and God are the same. You and God are connected. You're made up of the same material. And I think that's really important because a lot of times we go looking for God when we're in the middle of God. And if you're in the middle of God, you're not going to see God as an individual or as a separate thing. So I think we have to get away from the idea that God is something separate from us, but rather is something within us and within everything and within all life form.
Exactly. And so, in the New Testament, when Jesus said to several people, but particularly to the woman who wanted to be healed and touched the garment of his robe by saying to her, "Woman, you're healed by the power of your belief." And so what we believe is how we use all that God has to give us for the kingdom. Ernest Holmes said, um, and I don't know where he said this. Oh, he said it in The Science of Mind, page 404. I do know where he said it. He said, "If it is God's pleasure to give us the kingdom, then it should be our privilege to accept the gift." And Ernest Holmes meant not only in heaven, but also here and now. And he believed that we draw to us exactly what we deserve by right of consciousness. Now, consciousness is a word that was not common in our culture. It actually comes from the Indian um, ancient religion. And consciousness is the sum total of all that you think, believe, and are basically who you are as a thinking, feeling human being. And that is what attracts to you everything that you receive. We see it easily in some cases and hard to see it in other cases because we don't have privy to how people feel, what they're we don't have privy to what their deep-seated beliefs are about life.
Mhm.
Is life good or bad? Is God scary or generous? We have all those beliefs that we started getting as small children.
Yeah.
And so as adults, often we spend a lot of time trying to unbelieve the things that we had learned to believe.
And there's little distinctions. I'm reminded of Dr. David Walker, who was one of our former presidents of our organization and a great speaker and a great human being. But he was at a party, at a dinner party. And when he was at the dinner party, the person who was serving the coffee said, Excuse me, sir, but do you require cream in your coffee?" And Dr. David looked at him and thought to himself, "Do I desire it or do I require it?" And he said, "Yes, I do require it." And they gave him cream. But I wonder how often what we desire is what we require. And when we require that the universe open up to us because we're a part of it, we then are one with it. When we desire it, we're actually saying, "I'm separate from it. I'm not that. That thing is someplace else." So if you require a spiritual life, then you can dive into the deepest water and see God everywhere.
And sense it everywhere.
Yeah.
So if we believe that it is done unto us according to our belief, how good are we at checking our beliefs?
Mm,
How good are we at examining our beliefs? And how good are we at changing our thinking if we're getting into a poor me? Because if you get into that poor me consciousness, you're going to attract more
yeah.
victimhood. And so,
A little test for yourself would be after you do a prayer, we call prayer treatment, because we're treating ourselves to a prayer. We're treating ourselves to a positive outcome. But you could say, for instance, I'll just make this up. I see and know myself to be in perfect health. Everything about my health is perfect and I am fine. And then notice after you finish that, do you say something? I sure hope it works. And a lot of us have that other belief. We have simultaneously existing beliefs that are in conflict with one another. We affirm with affirmative prayer
Mhm.
that God is good and all is good and all is well. And we often end that prayer walking away saying, "I sure hope this works. I really need this to work." And we've actually then disconnected from the very thing that we have set out in motion to become real. So notice your conversation, and if that conversation occurs to you, if you think I don't know if it works or not, I hope it works, go back and start again. I know this time that even with my doubtful mind, that good things can happen for me. I know that even though I'm in question and I'm challenging the very thing that I say is true, I know that what is true is bigger than that. and I'm greater than that. And you can begin to deal with your own disbelief by changing it.
Exactly. I remember hearing a lot when I was new in this teaching about a victim consciousness, and don't allow yourself to have a victim consciousness. And because we believe that it is done unto you according to your belief. And so if you believe that you're a victim, you keep attracting more and more victimizing circumstances. And so you can change that. You can watch, you can observe your thinking and your normal state of being and change that by pouring more positive thoughts and expectations in. We say, and Ernest Holmes said in this teaching, that God always responds to you, but it responds by corresponding.
Mm,
So it doesn't always give you what you're asking for or praying for, but it gives you what you deserve by right of consciousness. Um, we were noticing a gathering that we had around here, and Bob and I were talking about one individual who seems to be attracting a lot of victimhood. And I said, if I were to say one thing about our consciousness that I observe, it's fear,
mhm,
and probably fear of not being accepted. And so she keeps attracting that
mhm.
in one form, and no matter how hard she works, she keeps attracting not being accepted.
Right.
So we have to understand that it responds perfectly by corresponding to what we're thinking and believing. Those were very powerful words that Jesus
Yeah.
spoke. It is done unto you according to your belief. So, well, some people say to me, well, how can I change what I believe? It's what I believe. You can change what you believe. You got there by making a decision about it, and you can make a new decision. And you can even say, well, I understand that this, and this happened to me, but go back and examine what you were thinking, believing, and expecting during that time, and you'll see that it fits.
And one thing you can do with that, and I've done this many times, is to say, uh, is there a fear behind the belief that I'm holding? Is it a fear-based belief? And if it is, the question then I would ask myself is, what would I do, or how would I think, or how would I behave if I weren't afraid? And so, what would I believe if I weren't afraid? And I'm going to go back to many, many years ago, long before I met Judith, and I dated what tried to date a young woman, and I said to her, would you like to go out?" She said, "I'd love to go out. We can go out and we can have a good time, but I want you to know something about me." And I said, "Sure." She said, "I don't trust men." I said, "Okay, so this will be an interesting relationship." So we're gonna act as if we're dating. We're gonna act as if we're developing a relationship, while all the time we're going to know that we can't possibly have one because there's no trust. So I asked her, I said, "Has this always been your experience, that you have never been able to trust men?" She said, "Oh, there's been a few, but I've been able to trust. But I just decided a long time ago you can't trust men." So I said, "Well, I think we've decided that we're not going to date." And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, dating requires an openness, a willingness to be available for a relationship. And you're saying basically you'd like to have fun without a relationship. Well, go to it." And that was the end of that quote relationship. But we have relationships like that all the time, where what we do is we have a condition. I don't trust, or this isn't going to work, or I don't like it. Now let me move forward with it, as if somehow it's going to work out for us. We need to catch our own contradictions. We need to be able to go back and say, what are some of the base beliefs that I have, the most basic beliefs I have? And I guess for me, the biggest question is, are they fear-based?
I'm going to move this a little closer. I keep disappearing into the art.
And you just did again. She's still here. There's
I dropped my
yeah,
my
yeah,
quote.
yeah.
I wanted to examine. Thank you for Bob. That's so true. That's a good example of really applying it in your life and checking out this theory or hypothesis that it is our thoughts and feelings that create our reality. I was looking up in the back of the Science of Mind textbook. There is a wealth of information. One is a glossary of what different things mean, and or definitions. Then there's a glossary. Then there's a concordance. So it's got a lot in it. But I looked up intelligence or intellect because uh, it came into our discussion at the prayer summit that that intelligence, it can be defined as the ability to respond. For example, plants have an intelligence and they respond to sunlight. They move in response to sunlight or whatever it is they need.
Yeah. They
Some
re-
plants remove in response to food, if they're
they respond to somebody coming toward them with scissors. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
Or
they actually scream.
I was actually thinking of those fly eating
Oh,
plants and flowers, and
yeah.
and they respond to what they need. So it's a good definition, but I didn't find it in either the back of the Science of Mind book or in the dictionary, but
What did you
still a good
find?
one. Because I do believe that it it applies to God, our understanding of God, that it does respond to us according to our consciousness, and it responds by corresponding. But intellect is defined as, or no, this isn't a definition. It's just what he said, Ernest Holmes said about it. When we combine thought with feeling, intellect with emotion, and add to this a recognition of the Father within, we have a power which is irresistible. And he means it's irresistible to life. So when you're watching your thoughts and what you believe, also know that your feeling about them is like adding the gasoline to the event, negative and positive. It is also, if you have a fear of this not being true or not working, it's like taking the foot off the gas pedal. But if you intensely desire it with an expectation, then that's like pressing on the gas pedal. So
I think a good example of that too is you'll be watching a movie, and when you watch the movie, your eyes are seeing the movie, your ears are hearing the movie, your heart is beginning to experience the emotions that go with the movie. And what happens to your physical body is you begin to feel and experience the movie as real. And so, when somebody's getting ready to sneak up on somebody else, you find your heart beating faster and you find yourself on the edge of your seat or clenching your fists. Why would you do that? When you see it and when you see it and say it and feel it, it becomes real. So if we look at that one step further with what you believe, if you believe that you're not going to make it in this world or the things are going to fail in this world, and you feel that, you see that, and you hear that, and you know that in your heart, how else could you live and what else could you possibly see? And so we're running into people all of the time who are saying, why can't I change my life? Why do I have to change what I believe? Can't you just
yeah, it's a little work.
can't you just
It's a
give me a
little
pill?
work.
Yeah.
It is a little work. And we feel justified in what we believe because we've experienced it.
Yeah.
But one thing that's very important to know is just because you have experienced something does not make it the truth with a capital T. It's just your experience based on what your consciousness at that time.
And you may also be suffering from hand-me-down beliefs. These are beliefs that are generational. These are beliefs that actually have no grounding in information, but they simply were given to you and you said must be true. If your father, your mother said to you, if you run with that, you'll put your eye out. Well, that was her concern. It didn't mean that you would put your eye out, but that's her fear of that happening is what motivated that conversation. You can say, is that true? I've seen very few children who've actually run and put their eyes out with whatever they were running with, although it can happen. If we live with that as our position, we won't run. If we ask ourselves, is it true? And does it make sense here now? And can I use this information? What do I need to do? We're examining the belief. So beliefs don't come to us by accident. They could be hand-me-down, but if they're hand-me-down beliefs, we can examine them. If they're beliefs that we now have that we came up with, there was a logical process we used to get to that. And we can then logically break that down. And it's really, really important because we're living in a time where all of us need to have healing in some area of our life. And if we believe that healing is possible, then the universe is for us and will support us in that. If we believe that healing is not possible, it's just a rat race, and when it's over, you die, then it's going to be very hard to notice the things or the conditions that favor you, that favor your consciousness and favor where you want to end up.
Right. We can look at our fathers, our mothers, and see what they believed based on their experience. And those are the ones you really need to work on because chances are you adopted what they believed,
Hmm.
because they're our everything, they are our providers. They teach us everything, and we grow up believing that our parents always know right. And yet once you really grow up and look at what you believe and what they believed, you may want to change some of those. I know my father grew up on a farm in the Depression. He went through the great dust storm that destroyed their farm. Most of us came over from Europe, and one of the big reasons why was to own a little plot of land. What was it, 40,
40
40
acres and a mule,
acres and a
or
mule
yeah,
people would get just for going west?
yeah.
Well, this was like heaven for a lot of the people from Europe, because they had trouble owning any land. The land was all owned by the land barons, and they couldn't own any for themselves. And so this was heaven. So it was a very wonderful career to be a farmer, because you could always grow your food and you were self-sustaining. So to have that wiped away with a dust bowl, and then on top of that, have the Great Depression, I could understand how my father and mother both had the idea that you have to work very hard to make your money or to
And
make your
there'll
living,
never be enough,
and there'll never be
and you
enough.
could
And
lose it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so my mother, I didn't see the fear in my father. I saw the hard work with my father. My mother was always afraid that there wasn't
We
enough.
have,
And so we adopt some of those, and
yeah,
you have to work with that and deny it and
yeah.
accept a new truth.
Well, most of us have grown up with not enoughness, that we're not enough. The conditions around us are not enough to make us happy. We haven't the right things or the right, whatever it is. And the not enoughness can eclipse any positive possibilities. So we have to go back and examine that and say, is that really true? Am I really not enough? Or if I'm not enough, is there anybody that is enough? If everybody's pretty much in the same lot that I'm in, I guess this not enoughness isn't really relevant. If nobody can jump 7 foot tall or 7 foot, I guess then that's not possible, and I shouldn't be holding myself to that standard. And so, what we do is we create beliefs based on assumptions that are inaccurate, unfortunately. Well, and I know we're spending a lot of time with this, but I think it's also fundamental. And I want to get back to Father's Day and talk a little bit about Father's Day. One of the things about Father's Day that amazes me is that fatherhood is not something that you can do alone, interestingly. And actually creation for human beings, and I will say this possibly, and people can prove me wrong, is always a co-creation process. And no
Yes,
matter what you want
indeed.
to create, there has to be other components or other people or other things you have to learn to get along with or work with or master in order for creation to take place. And so we often think, I created this. Well, I created this in collaboration with the universe. I created this in collaboration with a woman, if it was a child who said yes. I created the vulnerability within myself as she allowed herself to be vulnerable for creation to take place. Think about that the most wonderful and amazing creations take place when we're the most vulnerable, when we're the most exposed, when we're literally naked in our beingness with another person. And I think why that's really important is that many of us are afraid to be naked in our beingness, afraid to trust and be vulnerable, and also would like all of the outcomes that are possible when that occurs. And so you can't have both. You're going to have to risk. I was watching a movie. I started watching a movie the other day, and I'm saying to myself, "Am I in the mood for a movie or not? Do I want to watch this or not?" And so, for the first few minutes of the movie, I noticed it wasn't a very good movie. For the next few minutes, I noticed that I wasn't very good at being in the movie. And when I decided, yeah, I can do this, suddenly the movie came alive. How many of us are sitting on the sidelines saying, I've been examining life and it's not worth living? When in fact, what we need to be doing is to jump in the middle of it and say, how can I live this life fully? How can I do more to be alive in all of this? So there's this step of fatherhood is a huge step. Now, the other thing about this that I found for myself being a father is that there's no way you can do it. You don't have enough information. You don't know how to do it. It's not going to work all the time. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to be really tired. Uh, Life seems like it's stacked against you when it comes to parenthood. And again, it's actually for you, which is amazing. And I didn't want any children. And I didn't want any children because I grew up in a family where there was such a high level of abuse and dysfunction that it would be dangerous to have children, anybody live in my household. Having that experience, I thought, I'm not going to be able to be a parent. There's no way I can do this. So, and I'm sharing that with you because how many things have you said, there's no way I could do that? And then found out that it's not true. When my son was born, within a minute after he was born, I was holding him. And as soon as I started holding him and looked at him, I cannot explain where the love came from. I understand it's oxytocin, uh, which is a chemical the brain releases, but whatever you want to call it, what I experienced was a profound sense of connection that I've never lost. That to me, to this day, feels like this is not a regular human being. This is like if you see five blind human beings lined up, there's an angel, that's who he is. And trust me, he's never been an angel. But I think that you don't know how to do it, and you don't know that you actually have some built-in equipment that will help you do it. And so this co-creation process is enormous risk, stepping out into an arena that you don't know what to do with or how to, now you're where you belong. And the most exciting, wonderful things that you can create, first off, you're going to have to recognize you're co-creating. And then secondly, they're going to be over your head and impossible and can't be done. And therein lies the joy and the fun and the adventure.
And do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
I talk to people all the time because I work in mental health, and I have to talk to them. They don't like it when I don't talk to them, who tell me, I want to have a better life, but I don't want to have to do anything to make it happen. And, I want to just go home and be happy. And, the truth is, if you're in the ocean and you want to get someplace, you have to swim. And most of us can only float for a little while before we get bored. We're going to have to do something. And when you swim, you may run into sharks, you may run into all kinds of things, but you also are on an adventure that's worth living. So if you're sitting at the sidelines of life saying, I'm not sure I want to join, then it's a position as an observer, and you don't get all of the fun and the joy that you would get if you were in the middle of it.
So we hope you
Whoa.
have a happy Father's Day. Would you like to close us with a closing prayer?
Yes, I would. And so just bear with me here for a minute while I get centered. And I'm not going to call spirit to me. I'm going to call myself to spirit. I'm going to call myself into the space that says, yes, God is here in me, as me, working through me right here and now, and through each and every one of us right here and right now. And knowing that God in me, as me, works through me, I can now know that the divine is possible for me, that good is always occurring for me, that life is a wondrous and amazing adventure that I've said yes to. And so now I view my life, this life I'm living, as an exquisite journey that I've said yes to. And all of the players in this world, in this journey that I'm a part of, are joyfully a part of it too, with me, even when they don't know it. For this opportunity to be in this life right here and right now, I say thank you. And I know that it is good and it is well done. And I say thank you. And together we say, and so it is.
So it is.
And we're going to stop the recording here. Oh, actually, we're not. We're gonna let you know that we need to, if you want to support our teaching, which you can definitely do.
Do you
Sure.
have it on the?
I want to put it. Yeah, it's up, but I gotta find it. Where? Oh, share screen here. We can do this. Okay. And we're going to share that. Okay. So for those of you that love what we do, or that like what we do, or want to see it continue, and for us to do it more and to see this ministry expanded, the way to help and support us is the same way you help PBS when they constantly are asking you for money. And that's because to broadcast, it costs something. We don't do this for nothing. So you can go to our website, cslpalmbeaches.org. There is, and when you scroll on that, you'll see places that you can, a way to donate.
There's a button on the top that says
On top,
ways
okay.
to donate.
And you can donate as much or as little as you want. And know that you're supporting not only what we're doing today, but that you're supporting the consciousness that makes this possible. So we're going to say together right here and right now, my investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied.
And so it is.
I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop the recording. And